Hello everyone, welcome to our interview and employer project with Solent Local Enterprise Partnership and the Careers and Enterprise Company. Today we have Jess, Ed, we have Glenn, Barry and Luke from BAE Systems being interviewed by George from Crookhorn, Joe and Freddie from UTC Portsmouth. We have Callum at Portsmouth College and Maddie. So over to you, Joe and Freddie.
Hello, thank you for your time today. So who is your organisation, what do they do and what drew you to working for them?
I work for BAE Systems, but in particular the maritime service element of it. BAE is essentially a defence contractor, so we will build and supply different services and equipment for the military essentially, whether that be ships or planes.
Within BAE and the maritime services, what is your official job title and what does that entail?
So I'm currently a project management graduate.
My role at the moment, I'm capability manager.
I've got to remember myself now. Senior process engineer. There are lots of senior process engineers and I have a speciality in chemistry, doing electroplating.
The job title is Technical Training Assessor. I look after about 40 apprentices and they'll learn all the experience and knowledge in the dockyard whilst attending college and getting qualifications at the same time.
What does a typical day at work look like for you?
I'm trying to develop a new technique for electroplating, which suits me because it's lots of time playing around in the laboratory, changing different parameters and seeing how our circuit boards are improved.
Every day's different. Like I say, we've got 40 apprentices and each one of them could bring something. It's kind of like a support package really, looking after them on a day-to-day basis.
There isn't really a typical day. Some days I'll be working on a report that needs to meet the customer deadline, but on other days I could be going on the ship making sure that I can find all the compartments that I need to allow my work to continue.
Because BAE is so big, almost everywhere you go it operates similarly but differently. Right now I'm in building support, which is very much what we call smaller scale time projects. So these will run for a few weeks to a month. Depends where you are with the projects. It might be dealing with the engineers saying, can you check this design or can you design something for us? And then pushing that through to supply chain to then get a tender out, and you do spend a lot of time with the computer. But I quite enjoy the meetings and negotiations. I think, a big thing about project management is you've got to have the people skills and the confidence to approach people, whether that's, on the phone right now because you work from home, or whether that's, face to face.
How did that lead to your career journey? What have you done so far?
It got off to a sort of save the world kind of start. I went to college and I studied biology and chemistry and physics. I also studied theology and I discovered that it's not the easy subject that people make it out to be, and I was better at my sciences than I was at theology. So that encouraged me that I had the right idea and I should be pursuing science. Then when the financial crisis hit and there was less money around for saving the world, I went for more conventional jobs and ended up in engineering.
Obviously I said to you originally that engineering was my preferred area, and when I was at 16 I applied for an apprenticeship in the Portsmouth dockyard. Got the letter to say, sorry, thank you for your application, but we're not taking on any apprentices this year, much to my dismay. So I sourced a local engineering company that were willing to take on an apprentice, and I was fortunate enough to start with them after I'd stayed on an extra year at school to increase my qualifications and better them. In that summer I'd done a work experience with them, so they got to know me, I got to know them. Come the September, school ended in June. Come the September I started with them and also attended college to do my apprenticeship and get my qualifications for engineering.
And I wasn't necessarily the most academic person. I was very sort of extracurricular, doing sports, scouts, air cadets, which is sort of where the sort of military stuff sort of gets started for me. Went to uni, absolutely loved it, really bloomed. I went to University of Dundee to study physics and ended up joining the East of Scotland University Air Squadron. So that meant sort of getting military experience whilst I was at university. So I got to fly planes, do leadership exercises, Marines exercises and stuff. So really seeing a lot of kit and the military stuff. On top of that, I was a bit of a nerd, so I was in the physics society. But I also still love my sport, so I was doing boxing and rugby as well. Not all at the same time, but through different years. So so whilst developing my physical knowledge and getting that sort of skills and getting that degree, getting all these soft skills, which is kind of what I really almost preferred, which then sort of led me to project management. What
skills and qualifications did you need?
We just dropped the entry criteria for our apprenticeships. It used to be 4 to 9, and it is A to C, I think.
Yeah.
So in GCSE terms, old GCSE, it was A star to C. For our industrial workforce, we were losing a lot of people that were really, really capable with their hands, but maybe not quite so academic. So we've dropped that down now. And whilst we aim to that, we also provide that education during the apprenticeship in years 1 and 2 in the apprenticeship. So at the end of the apprenticeship, we have to have the GCSE qualification with English, maths, but we do accept them without that now if they're the right applicant through interview and different process.
BAE Systems do kind of competency and strength-based interviews, so quite a lot of it was kind of asking me questions where I've had the opportunity to take on leadership roles, what was the most challenging thing I've done up to this point. So quite a lot of it's kind of drawing from things that you've done either in a day-to-day like classroom, what you've done at school, or if you've done work outside of your studies.
You're asking all the right questions. One of the things that I try to help people to take away when they're asking me for advice is, yes, to do well, to get good grades at things, but more importantly, to choose the right subjects and the right qualifications. One thing that I learnt A-level was that there are some places where you can't even go to university to do chemistry unless you've done a maths A-level. So if I'd have been passionate to get to those places, I was already too late for me to do so because I didn't do any maths. So try to plot your career backwards from where you intend to end up.
What would be your top tips for a young person who is venturing out into the career world?
People always forget that interviews are a two-way thing. You know, I did go to one interview and I realised that I didn't want to work for that company. I just got the vibe on the day that it wasn't for me. You know, and I don't know why. It just when I got there after a few hours, I just kind of knew that wasn't the job for me. So it can be a two-way thing. You can actually say no.
Big thing for me I found was going to career days at college. They seem to have loads of them, and not many people would go to them because I feel it can be quite intimidating. They're there to tell you as much information as you want, and don't be afraid to ask questions. When I was looking at universities, I didn't exactly know what course I wanted to do. I spent about an hour and a half talking to one of the lecturers about the different course options that I could do. And he kind of said, well, there are two, but one of them, it kind of narrows your options right down. So from the start, you're almost on a back foot. But it's definitely the university support system I found was really good because they also helped with checking CVs and practice interviews, which was really nice because I've never done an interview before.
Thank you for asking such wonderful questions as well. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you learned something from the experience.